All right. Yay. Hey, what's up, in man? Welcome here. First of all, how do you like my new wallpaper? So, I subscribe to the Microsoft Bing daily wallpaper thing. It's amazing. Every day I get a brand new wallpaper. I love it. I don't know why I never had this thing before. I just love it. It keeps surprising me with some really cool stuff. So like this is our galaxy. This is our Milky Way, and I love that we have the Milky Way today because today we're starting to dream and we're starting to talk about some of my dreams. And so this is a new type of video that I'm calling Playtime with Krox, right? And man, I'm really like trying to get into this new thing, and it's going to be very interesting to see where this one is going to go. So I took a couple of minutes to think about what I want to say as I launch this video. This is day one. Looks like this is day zero, man. Cool. So just allow me to, man, haven't even cleaned up my typos before I come back in and just read this to the world. I'm gonna post this video on my YouTube, and this is going to be a process that I hope to do every day for maybe an hour or something. So like even before I get into that, maybe I could show you uh one of the things that has brought me back to start talking about this. So this is my Tumblr page that I started over 10 years ago, bro. Over 10 years ago. Like if I open this image that I reposted, I wonder, can it open though? Not really sure. Let's it can't. Interesting. Does Tumblr really work anymore? Let's open this one and just see if it has a timestamp. Right. Okay, so it doesn't have a timestamp or anything. Yeah, it's whatever. But I used to be on Tumblr over 10 years ago, right about like the decade mark. And what I ended up starting to use Tumblr for, like, there was no Instagram back in the day, and I used to hang out a lot on like this creative type sites. And Tumblr was one of like the creative type sites. People used to post a lot of their creative work here, and me too. So I used to repost a bunch of things and a bunch of my influences back in the day. And yeah, this is actually one of my pictures that I did create. Oh, this was coming from my Flickr. Or this I shot this image in January 2012. I was trying to get into this photography thing. That's one of the first times I started getting into photography, and I didn't have gear, so I used a point and shoot, and I didn't know anything. The composition is off, the framing is off, but I mean, I thought it was nice, right? And then I started creating. I'm telling you the reason why I'm doing playtime. It's gonna make sense in a little while. Just bear with me. I started making this a bunch of African proverbs. This here was in uni. I had just joined college. A good day seen in the morning, and this is a picture of mine. Yeah, though the lion and the antelope live in the same forest, the antelope still has time to grow up. I think this is a Swahili proverb, or I don't know. There's none who tests the depth of a river with both feet. These are African proverbs. So I really into like African proverbs. I've always been into like wisdom and stuff. Right. Do good and go your own way. Things are miraculous. Reeds produce water, forests produce firewood, and fire produces ashes. Do not teach the paths. You do not teach the paths of the jungle to an old gorilla. He who chases you does not ask you to leave. There's always a better man for every good man. This is actually so true in life, you know. If you think you're a good man, there's always a better man. Um, so he who learns teaches. This is an African proverb I really believe in. Like luck is like the wind; it is blowing on my side. This is I think this is a Swahili saying. A lazy man's canoe does not sail. Um, so yeah, man, I really I was into this, and I was trying to get into graphic design back in the day, and this was one of the ways that I could play with Photoshop. As you can see, my type game was down. My typography game was so down, but I had no other way to learn, and I had no other way to experiment. This among my first pictures, me getting into photography. Among my first pictures, this one and this one, I was into like the African aesthetic. And here, these are reposts. One of my pictures here, a bunch of reposts, and then I started doing this thing with my point and shoot. The time I really wanted to become a photographer, it was very frustrating telling everybody I want to be a photographer. This was before Instagram, so I bought a domain, this the Krox.com, and I started kind of like just posting this Instagram type images, and shortly afterwards, I also joined Instagram. Another reason why I had this is because I never had a smartphone. I used to have a Nokia, and I think Instagram had launched. If I remember well, and Instagram, yeah. So Instagram did exist. I just didn't have an Instagram, and Instagram had this square um, aspect ratio. I remember being so mind blown about this square aspect ratio and thinking about composition in a square aspect ratio. I used to see a lot of this type of minimalism type images, and I would take my point and shoot and go recreate it in Photoshop. And since I had a point and shoot and a small laptop, I figured I'd just post on my website, because Instagram you could only post on Instagram via your phone. Even like right now, you can't post on Insta with a um, you know with the thing, with the smartphone, with the laptop. And so this is just a bunch of things I used to create. Here I got back into quotes. Really been into like motivation type course. Here is one of my first ever portraits, and this is a project I wanted to start of Africa. But now I'm not into like this type of thing anymore. Just I grew out of it, and then this is the next thing. So the next thing I really got into is cinematography. Now this is what I want now to do with playtime. So you will notice all this are like cinema stuff, screenshots, where when I was watching a bunch of movies on VLC on my laptop, I would I think Control S or something, and I would save all this bunch of screenshots, and I was having a lot of screen grabs on my computer. So I figured, because I just don't want the screen grabs to stay, I'm going to just get these screen grabs, post it together on my Photoshop, and I'll post it on my Tumblr, so that it could be like a reference for the future. This was a Guinness ad. I really, really enjoyed this Guinness ad. This was a project that I had started called Live. I was in uni. I was extremely extroverted. I was partying a lot. I wasn't creating as much as I wanted, and I really just believed in this philosophy of living and experiencing life with friends. You could say all these are my friends, just hanging out with a bunch of people. Really cool. If I think back, we had a grand time. Right now, this is I reposted wherever, so I could repost, and mostly I would post my own type stuff. So these are screen grabs from 2046 by Christopher uh, Doyle, Wonka Rai. Uh, Amazing, beautiful movie. And this is the time, this is the season that I went Eastern, and started watching a bunch of Eastern cinema, and I got so mind blown, inspired. I loved it. It really awakened so much art in me, just this type of Eastern cinema. And I went ahead and watched a bunch of Wonka Rai movies. I think even all of them. I think I've watched all of them. And then this is the Railwayman, and these are now. So here I'm coming to what I was saying. So when I started playing, I started thinking, this is a Justin Bieber music video that I forget. I forget what it is called. These are some type of uh, I was thinking of being like a designer for, what do you call, mixtapes and stuff. And because I was really into music at the time, and I was listening to a bunch of music, and I would try and think about. So this, I was listening to the GNI Eco project. I forget. I haven't listened to it ever again. This was a song called Eternal Sunshine. This was a song called Spotless Mind. This was a song called Promises. This is a song called Ways. I remember this, like her music just really affecting me in such a way that I made a bunch of things to celebrate that, and just that just stayed the way it was. I never did anything with it, but I posted on this Tumblr. This is the first time I started playing with GIF on Photoshop. GIF. I'm a GIF type guy, so I think the first time I got a MacBook, I was so happy. I took a picture of it, and then I was started taking screen grabs from movies, and I would try and remix it. So this is a Sierra music video that I forget, really do forget. It's been a while, and I play with gradients and GIF. This is also our Tiwa Savage music video. I used to have a crush on Tiwa way back. This was my first logo, my first official logo. It was called Young Simba. The inspiration to Young Simba was that was that J Cole line where it says, "My young Simba can't wait to be the king." And I used to really feel like I have so much potential, and I used to fight. And even right now in my adult life, I'm a real adult now. I used to fight a lot with the emotion, of like feeling you have so much potential and not really working on it. So young Simba was like, man, I need to be working on my creative stuff. This is my picture. This is a bunch of assessing those flat lay videos on images on Instagram, and here's a bunch more. What do you call them when you put together screenshots? Yeah, I was heavy into cinematography in this season of my life. Heavy into cinematography. I really did think I want to be a cinematographer, and I did pursue that for a little while. A bunch of my images and a bunch of my pictures, also a bunch of screen grabs from a movie, just a bunch of screen grabs, my image, another bunch of screen grabs, another bunch of screen grabs, another bunch of screen grabs from the Beasts. What do you call this movie? Beasts of the Wild. It was a really really sick movie, man. I loved it. From what's her name? She's a big pop artist. Um, the one Kanye took something from the award from. Yeah, I forgot. This is her music video. This is a movie. This is another music video. This was me playing on Photoshop with a bunch of graphics. This was the first uh, thing I made on Photoshop. It's like a UI, a playlist, music player type thing. Now I realize I could do so much better, but this was the first time, and I posted it on Twitter. Some people are like, "Yo, this is so cool. You should consider doing it." Like, bruh, it's like I thought I should flex because I had a frustration with my music player at the time, which was Google Music Play. I think that's what it was called. I used to think the UI is so ugly, and I wanted something funky and fresh like this. So I made this up, and that's that. So now that I've talked about this, I can tell you one of the thoughts that I have about whatever I'm doing. So it will be a good cue to talk through now some of the things and some of the writings that I've written about this. So this is a new process that I hope to bring back into my life, and then excuse me, to take charge of all this mindless scrolling and do nothing with inspiration. Haha! Isn't it funny that if you are a creative professional, especially in 2021 onwards, there exists a thing as over inspired? Fam, like, have you ever been on IG and just you felt like, yo, I think I've had all the inspiration I need to do in this day, and you feel overwhelmed? Actually, I think the feeling is overwhelmed because, okay, fine, I've seen typography. If I'm into photography, I've seen like all the photos that I need to see in that particular niche or subgenre. If it's landscapes and stuff, you've just seen so many images, and so you have this feeling like, bruh, I know what I need to do. I'm just like over inspired, right? So why so because content comes from all these places like Insta, Pinterest, and if you're any of those places, you get a bunch of inspiration during your day that you love so much, but might never actually be able to do anything about it. So playtime is that active time of creating and playing that you get references and do something with it. Maybe remix it, maybe try and create something just like that, maybe catalog it. I think there are many playtime ideas that I personally have. So so now this sets the stage of what I'm thinking playtime is going to be. So you remember how when I was showing you, for example, the Krox Tumblr page that I don't even know if I remember the password to. I would take somebody idea and I would make something with it. If I'm inspired, it just doesn't stay there. Like I would really legit, here's a believer. Maybe this was something I was trying to do, I don't remember. But I would do something, with it. I would maybe remix it. It doesn't have to just be a bunch of inspiration. I could probably do something with it, right? Like this. And I think it's a very active process of learning that I want to involve in my life, and I'll talk about it the more as I keep reading. So here are some of my reasons, more reasons. I was typing really quickly because I wanted to get it out of my head, and now talking about it. So another thing is that creativity is mostly pattern recognition and pattern matching. And when you get better at recognizing patterns, you can also match them together in a different season. I have this type of vague ideas that I really want to find out if they are real or I'm just reeling off inspiration from elsewhere. Yo. So I think, yeah, right. So I think creativity is like pattern recognition, and you match that pattern. For example, you could use ideas um from all over. You could use ideas from like architecture, from graphic design, from photography, and it starts to make a lot of sense to you. For example, I feel like my graphic design has started to really grow because from photography, I really, really started understanding the importance of contrast in an image and why, like, top photographers would build contrast into their photography. And whoa, I have to talk about this. So yesterday, I'm just like on YouTube, and I saw S. Devlin Masterclass, bro. It was a masterclass ad. I think this is the ad, bro. This is so inspiring. It just blew my mind. First of all, before like I say anything about it, I just think like S. Devlin is like a legit creative, right? So let's watch this, and you'll start just seeing where some of these influences are coming from, and like this idea of playing slowly becoming a very, very personal process. So let's see what S has to say. Then we'll go back to talking about my idea of playtime.
We normally start in the dark
So let me just get rid of CCs.
and then begin by carving out to bring the audience's attention to one thing at a time. How do you give physical concrete form to something as abstract and nebulous as music, or to an idea? When I was at school, my teachers called me a jack of all trades, master of none. The more paths I was offered, the more I wanted to take. I wanted to read about neuroscience and eco-psychology. I studied English literature, then art, then stage design. It's quite unusual to make that leap from classical theatre into pop music. And people are constantly invited to specialize. And I am here to teach you to do the opposite. This class is for those who want to turn what is in their mind into something they can hold in their hand.
I really
Whether
relate
it's
to
within
that.
the field you currently work or specifically within the field of design, iterate, iterate, iterate. Even when you think you've arrived at something, and you might even just infuriate yourself into having to come up with a new idea. So many artists, designers, makers, once you peel away the surface, you realize that they're making in order to conquer a sense of loss. And certainly in my experience, I made a decision to throw myself into my work in my early 20s because of a loss that happened in my life. That energy of creation as a reaction against loss is incredibly powerful. You have never researched enough. Your life will be an endless and I hope fruitful and happy journey of not knowing enough. If you're choosing to watch this class because you want to keep expanding the paths along which you walk, you're in good company. I am Ez Devlin, and this is my
Masterclass. Ah, ha, ha. Ah, bruh. Ah, I get tears in my eye. Ah, tell me this is not one of the most beautiful masterclass ads you ever saw in your life. She relates a lot to some of my thoughts and what I think creativity is, and what I think we should all do about our creativity. And I mean, I think it also like relates to a lot of my shadows that are in me and a person that I'm trying to express, I guess, bring out into this world. And it's really this creative person. But then, whew, let me get back to that place that I was reading. That was, for some reason, it was just so emotional to say that because I love to see. Let me just talk about that. Let's just talk about that. I love to see people embrace who they are, and especially in their creativity, and then to push boundaries of what we think a creative life could be. I mean, it is so easy to imagine a creative life, um, like it be like a life of scarcity, and you can only do a couple of things in your life, and that's it. And so, like when you see, especially that scene in the ad, especially because I haven't watched the masterclass, I haven't subscribed yet, but I might just subscribe for this one class. But in this scene where she says your life is going to be a constant adventure of always learning, and then there's a, a screen on her screen, an image of the ocean, just like a tide coming in. It was so. I mean, I think it just it has triggered a lot of emotion in me because like life in creativity is so grand and so diverse that we haven't really even tapped into where we can take it, especially on personal level. So now that we've gotten that out, so creativity is mostly pattern recognition and pattern matching, and you can match patterns from like architecture and fashion design, in photography and stage design, and put them into this just like eclectic mix of things, right? And I hope to really explore that because here I said I have this type of vague ideas in my head that I probably want to find out if they're real. So yeah, I really want to keep, maybe I'll keep writing a little bit about that to see where my mind is at, especially on that one idea, right? So another thing, say maybe point number 3 or something. Creativity is very personal, and I've been really inspired to keep pulling this string. And maybe this is a process of personal development, a process of knowing myself more. And if you give a bunch of creatives some assets, they'll most likely make different types of stuff. Why? Because I think because creativity and creative expression is as different as the people who are on earth, right? So I'm curious, why do I get pulled into the type of things that pull me? What are my influences? How can I honor those influences? Because for sure I did not come up with any of these types of things. So when I create pictures, when I'm drawn into a certain type maybe of music, certain type of visuals, Like, what are the influences on what triggers me? It really, I don't think it's just these things. Okay, I don't think I'm smart, so smart and talented to have like this, just these tools in my life. And I know that I'm not talented, because even a lot of the things that I've been doing right now, I was really, really crappy in the beginning, and I've just seen myself starting to grow. So there's no way I was born with this. So yeah, this is one of those things that I want to really just embrace this as a personal process, to appreciate myself in this process of growth, knowing myself, knowing my influences, appreciating my influences, and seeing what I can do with it. So I was like, point number 3, maybe point number 4 or something. So another thing, I think creativity is a muscle. The more you work on this muscle, the more you can flex when ideas come your way, or opportunities come in your place in the future. There is a place for you to go and a place for you to start. Creativity is so weird, such that if you work on this muscle, you have more chances to pull from it than if you start from scratch every time, and maybe that's another reason. So I think here I thought about yesterday how, maybe I'll talk about it later on, that I think creativity and discipline, these are things that I'm really into, like, lately, are not these tangible things. They exist in a different plane. Like, why is this person disciplined and this other person not disciplined? We cannot explain. It's a very hard. It's like a heart thing. It's a very soulful thing, right? It's not. You cannot make yourself more disciplined by just in your physical environment. It has to be a heart thing. You cannot make yourself just more creative. It's also like a soul thing. And yeah, man, I believe, like, the more you open your soul to creative work, you just let yourself go. It's a muscle that is just, it keeps growing, and I want that. So the other reason is hitting to start from scratch, and acknowledging that I have whatever it takes, and I also have in my capacity and access everything I need for new projects, new ideas, etc. So instead of jumping online and typing layout inspiration, maybe I have a bunch of skills in this layout department that can come in handy. So, if I get a new project and I'm supposed to work on a new project lands on my lap, instead of jumping into the internet and getting seriously inspired. You know how designers and create all types of creatives get heavily inspired from a product. That means they just copy, like they rip off something from Pinterest or whatever. But like, if you're constantly playing and you're constantly practicing, um, you can start from somewhere. I talked about something that right, did I talk about? Let me keep. Let me just say it and then I'll talk about it. I remember watching The Future, Chris Do in The Future. So I suppose if you're a creative, you probably know who Chris Do is in the world of creative arts and graphic design and all that. And Chris had this designer. Let me show you. I think it was this. Yeah. So this video,
Hey everybody, Chris here.
I'm not gonna let it play, but so in this video, Chris goes and talks to his designer. Her name is Ming. I remember this video just totally shifting how I think about work. And Chris asked his designer, to come up with a bunch of layouts, right? And bruh, in this entire video, she came up with like 10 or like 20 layouts for him to think about. What does he like, the direct. So Chris says he gave a bunch of direction. This is why you can take this project. I like modern type fonts, I like modern type and layout stuff, and just gave her this work, and she came back with like 10 comps, 20 comps for like this man Christo to look at it. It really made a very, let me go back here, it made a very big impact to me, thinking up until this point, about 2 years ago, I would make maybe like two three comps of a project, if I'm working on a project, if layout, for example, let's talk about layout because I was doing a lot of layout, and I'm supposed to do like a layout, I would just do one, right, or two. But this type of iteration and this thinking of iteration, um, when I saw this lady make like 10, 20 comps, it made me realize that I can actually do so much more. And actually, I did do that with our. So I've been making a bunch of graphics for church, right? And here is one of those ideas just coming in action. Another reason is why I'm also doing this. I never used to work like this. This was like a new process for me. I heard from what's his name, Aaron Draplin. Aaron Draplin is a fire illustrator, man. uh Aaron Draplin Co. This dude, fire design. I think everybody who loves design should go get his book, should subscribe, should probably buy a few of his merch, should get his design, pretty much everything, and you should watch his course on Skillshare. His course on Skillshare, he says vectors are free, guys. I remember him saying that, and it really caught my attention. Vectors are free, guys. Just go at it and make a bunch of stuff. So I was working on a bunch of posters last week, and I kept iterating. This was iteration 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This was iteration 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. Iteration 1, 2. Okay, fine, cool. And then iteration 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool. We can keep going. Iteration 1, 2, 3, and so this becomes a new way that I'm personally starting to work. That I really just stretch that dynamic. I don't stop from one. Like how Ming did for Chris Do. I come through with like 10 different comps because ideas are free, and how Aaron Draplin says vectors are free. Just like we shouldn't, like vectors don't cost you money, they just cost you time. You can do it. And so yeah, so instead of jumping online and typing that inspiration, you can just like create from maybe this. Another reason, maybe 5. So sometimes you learn a bunch of skills and a bunch of new ways of thinking, creating, working, a bunch of new tricks that you can use in Photoshop or Illustrator or Figma or any other tools, in 4D, whatever, but just never really use it for anything. Right? Like you just learn how to use some tool, but you never use it for anything. So when you play, you can experiment with these new tools. These things that are hidden in software that you might never get to use it in your daily work. So it's always important to play and to build that process. And this is one of the reasons why I'm building this process, because now, for example, now I'm trying to learn Figma, right? I'm trying to learn Figma, and whatever project I've just shown you, here's I'm working on Figma to create a bunch of this church type graphics. But one thing is, I don't know how to use Figma, bro. I don't know how to use variants and prototypes and all this type of tools and skills that you can use Figma for to create a bunch of. So in Figma, you could create like a one button as I think as a variant, and you could reuse it throughout your thing, your project. And I think they assume that people are going to make hundreds of pages anyways, so they're just making it easier for you to come up with it. But I don't know how to do that, but I know I need to learn that. So the thing is, when I learn like new tricks like that, I could always come back and experiment with them and play with them during this playtime with Krox. And so Krox is like an art name for me, man, that I came up with way back in high school. And I can't drop it anymore. It helped me to become a creative when I couldn't become a creative, and I can't see my life without it. I'll talk about that maybe one time, and we might work with it. Right, so that's that. So, filling the well. I read from this book, The Artist's Way, the importance of filling the well. So, this is a process of constantly filling up the well. So, when an opportunity for work comes, I have a bunch of references coming from. Now, feeling the well for me is also very important. It just counts. So I'm always feeling the well, and this is also a frustration, and a real frustration for me because I don't want to just like feel the well. It comes from whatever I was saying up here. You know, like you can be over inspired. You be on IG, it's when you're chilling, on Instagram scrolling, or you have YouTube playing on your side or whatever, or you're on Pinterest, or you're on Behance. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think all other types of creators are like this. Always online, you're always looking on the gram, you're always kind of following people who you love, always. Like, there's no in between. So you're always constantly feeling the well. And I just want to say that it's also important to always feel the well. And I think feeling the well refines your taste buds for quality. And when you see some really, for example, like when you see some really tight typography, it starts to really refine your taste for what good type is, right? So when you see bad type or poorly done type, you're like, nah, this is poor, this is a bunch of some nice type. But now, imagine if this was a constant effort, if this was a constant effort to do that. And now I'm going to talk about some of the ways that I've done to do this, and I'll establish, maybe through this process I'm going to establish a pattern of how I'm going to keep doing this actively now, because I also feel like I think I'm a really good like an internet surfer type guy. Yeah, me, I just be surfing the web. I see some cool thing that I like. I follow that rabbit hole. I see a cool artist's name. I love it. I follow him on IG. Always, always look up what other work do they have. If I really, really, really dig whatever they have, I'm always clicking on links. I'm clicking on their Behance. I'm clicking on their Twitter. I just like don't not spending too much time just saying are they cool, are they not, and I feel like um if you if you're a creative who's a really good internet user, like I am a really good internet surfer, I be surfing the interwebs for creative work and inspiration. It's probably also important or good if you started saving your references. This is a new process that I've been building, and I'm going to talk about how I'm thinking about it and some of the tools that I'm using to do that. One of them is Notion. Tada! Okay, so another reason, so maybe like reason six or something, I've been inspired by stories of great inventors and people like Donald Knuth on the Lex Friedman podcast, where this man was genuinely inspired and he told so many stories of how he came up on an idea or an algorithm or a way of working. I was so inspired that I thought I also want this process in myself, for myself in my life. I do not want to come up with random knowledge. I want to pursue that rabbit hole and maybe tell a story about it. There are a bunch of stories in there, right? Now, Donald Knuth is considered like one of the fathers of like modern computer science. He wrote the book on algorithms. He's like an algorithm father of algorithms and stuff. I was watching this podcast. Uh man, uh Donald Knuth, Lex Friedman, part two. So there's a part two. I watched both part one and part two. This one, bro. So this is the part one, and this is part two. Literally, this man is like old, but he's like 80s or something. He talked of these stories so vividly. Like I went in the 60s, I was lecturing in this place, and I met so and so, and he asked me this, and so I went and wrote about this. In the 70s, I was in Brazil, and this is what happened. I was mind blown. I cannot, like, this one particular instance is an instant where my life just shifted. When I noticed this, I was like, ha, people do this. And this is another reason why I think it's important for me maybe to play so that I can share some of my influences. This is legit one of my influences, right? I was like, bruh, if someone is this old and they can tell vivid stories of like hard mathematical concepts and how they came with it, they came up with it. I also want this for my life. So I also want to tell stories of how I come up on ideas. I think every single idea that you have has a story. It just so happens that when you're not paying attention, when you're doing anything conscious, when you're not creating systems that allow you to be conscious about how you work, you won't know how you came up on an idea. You'll just know, we did that. That was cool. And I think I've seen this in my life also. Growing up as a creative professional, where you wing it. You've been on IG, you've been on Pinterest, you've seen ideas all day. When a project comes, you wing it and you move on. How about if you became a man of process, a man of stories, or that this idea came up like this, and this is how I approached it, and this is some of the results that I got out of it also. Yeah, uh, learning about case studies. I've been learning about case studies just because I want to level up my life and I want to level up how I work. And case studies. So in a case study, when you do a case study for on like Behance or on your website, you don't just want to say or show the cool thing that you did. You want to start with the problem and then your solution, and then here are the effects or the impact that my solution had. And there's no way you can come up with that type of thinking if you did not consciously create that into your process. If you're starting a studio, if you're starting your design practice, you want to be conscious about how you build the first part of problem, maybe inspiration first, then problems, then your solution, and then its if effects or its impact. I think you want to do this so consciously and methodically that you can tell stories and you can find impacts. And then that also comes back to the other idea that I said up there. Like there's always patterns, right? There's always patterns. There's always patterns to problems. There's always patterns to solutions. And I think if you do it long enough, like you are so quick to know these patterns and to see them and to put them up. And that's why I think also that that's the value of experience. Like an experienced designer, an experienced web developer, an experienced entrepreneur, a businessman, manager, leader has seen a problem so many times that they know, one, they know how that problem might have cropped up, and they know how to solve it. So be a man of process. Right. So another reason, maybe seven, is naming your process. Articulating your thoughts, your way of doing things will put in a lot of perspective whatever you need to do to get wherever you are looking to go. So if I'm able to get better articulating my process, I'm talking about what I made, I can easily pass it off to someone else. Right. So again, this is a skill that I've been building over time. A very personal development skills for me is talking and articulating my thoughts. I had this problem that I'm slowly not having anymore. I had this problem of not being able to explain myself and not being able to explain my thoughts, not able to explain my creative work. If someone tells me, okay, fine, cool, this is really cool, how did you do it? I'm like, man, I was just playing on Photoshop or whatever. Uh, b- but I started learning about why it's important to articulate your thoughts because it allows you to solidify a process. When you solidify a process, you can write it down. You can even write down the steps. Step number one, find the right type. What is the right type? The right type is A, B, C, D, E. Why? Because A, B, C, D, E said so. And these are their reasons. 1, 2, 3, 4. Step 2, do this. Step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, step 7. If you can articulate your thoughts, you can document your process. And I think this is important, man. Like, I think creative work could be so. Creative work feels very, like I said, in the beginning of this rant, of me articulating this thought. Creative work could feel a lot like magic, you know. Like we creative, bro. We come up with these things. But if you really just step back and looked at creative people like S. Devlin. We just saw how on her masterclass it made us tear. When you look back, you find there's a process to the madness. There's no madness, there's no magic, there's no genius. There is process and there is hard work. And that's one of the most important reasons why you want to work on a process. When you read the uh, Turning Pro by Steve Pressfield, he really talks about the professional creative, and he talks about what it means to be a professional creative, and he talks about a process. There's another video that I saw um, with with George R.R. Martin and bro, what is this author's name? And George R.R. Martin was saying that he has writer's block from time to time. And this other writer, bro, what is his name? I know I can find it. George R.R. Martin, writer's block. Yeah, I think that I should just find. Yeah, with Stephen King. I should how can I forward until the part where Stephen King says the problem is we don't know what makes us. Just watch it. Let's just watch it.
George, we're going to have to wrap this up pretty soon. Is there anything that you've always wanted to ask me? Because, George, I will.
Yes, there is something I want to ask you.
All right.
How the fuck do you write so many books so fast?
Now listen.
I think, I've had a really good 6 months. I've written 3 chapters, and you've
Yeah,
finished
but-
3 books in that time.
Here's the thing, okay?
Listen.
There are books and there are books. The way that I work, I try to get out there and I try to get 6 pages a day. So with a book like End of Watch, and when I'm working, I work every day, 3-4 hours, and I try to get those 6 pages and I try to get them fairly clean. So if the manuscript is, let's say, 360 pages long, that's basically 2 months' work. It's concentrated, but but that's assuming that it goes well.
And you do hit 6 pages a day?
I usually do.
You don't ever have a day where you sit down there and it's like constipation and you write a sentence and you hate the sentence and
Okay.
you check your email and you wonder if you had any talent after all and maybe you should have been a plumber. Don't you have days like that?
No, I mean, there's real life. You know, I can be working away and something comes up and you have to basically get up and you have to go to see the doctor, or you have to take somebody care package, or you have to go to the post office, because whatever. But mostly I try to get the 6 pages in, although entropy tries to intervene. You know, I did an event at Radio City Music Hall for charity with John Irving and Joe Rowling, and this was the time, J.K. Rowling, and this was at the time that she was finishing the 7th Harry Potter books. And I know that I've been very fortunate as a writer, and you've been terrifically fortunate as a writer. You worked for a long time, wrote a lot of good books, won a lot of awards, and then out of nowhere, all of a sudden this crazy thing happens where all these books are suddenly New York Times bestsellers, and God knows it's deserved, but it's a sort of sudden thing. And here's the other thing, okay? People yell at you and say, we want the next book, we want the next book. They're like babies, we want the next book right away. I mean, it's a great thing to want that, but the pressure that you feel or I feel compared to that final Harry Potter book, you know, everybody wanted that, and she came to New York and she was nearly finished with it, and she'd agreed to do this event. And Joe was trying to do 3 things at once. She was going to do a vacation with her kids. She was going to finish the last 5 or 6 chapters of the 7th Harry Potter book, and she was going to do this event. And she showed up to do the sound check at Radio City Music Hall, and she was dressed like any housewife or mother or anyone who was on vacation. She had a shell top on and white clam digger pants and loafers or sandals or something, and her hair tied back in horsetails. And we were trying to talk about what we were going to do and everything. And the Scholastic Press publishes is pulling her aside and talking to her. And Joe was very polite. But when she came back and talked to me, she was really, really angry. And what she said was,
Listen,
they don't understand what we do,
yeah.
do they?
Uh-huh.
And I said, how can they understand
When we don't.
understand?
So, I don't know, that last sentence, bro, it shattered my life when J.K. Rowling asked, they don't understand what we do they? And then Stephen King replied, how could they understand when we don't? Let's talk about that for a minute, because I told you that changed my life. Process. So, creative people don't understand how they came up with ideas. They don't understand how something meant for them. They, like, I mean, I say we, I mean, like, we used to not understand how we came up with ideas and like the process that takes care of that. And Stephen King, I think he understands the process is so important that you need to have a, like, articulated way of working, and you just stick to that and you work like that, right? And when you understand that, you can keep it going. You can keep it going. I hope my mic is still on. Check, 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 check. Yeah, you can keep it going. All right, cool. Oh, that was a bold process. I love that I went back and talked about that. Okay, so reason number 8. Okay, so recording my screen will force me to play consciously. So it's a lot like the Pomodoro technique. It's okay. Let me just finish reading first. Since you know this time, it's time to show up and play. You'll do exactly that and show up and play. This is me training my brain to work longer and to work consistently, and I just think about stuff, but actually do them. So I think about creative work is so interesting for me, man. Like me, I can just get swallowed up like in the like internet surfing. It's like a beast, or even just scrolling. No, doesn't have to be like on the computer. You can follow that rabbit hole. You leave Instagram, you go back to Twitter. You leave Twitter, you go to some Behance, then some creators page. You just keep following that, and I think, ooh, bruh, you set out to work, and half of the time you are playing, or you're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So I've been reading, or I think listening, but I think reading on Jim Rohn's book, Seven uh, Strategies for Wealth and Happiness. I think Jim Rohn said, in one of the things that really jumped up, I'm still earlier on in the book, and he said that you want to be very focused, right? And he said you want to have focus. This is something that I've been struggling with, so that made a lot of impression to me. Of course, things that make a lot of impression to you are things that you're maybe thinking about, or you're struggling with, or you've seen a lot, and you're like, ha! And he said that you want to have a like time for daydreaming, for example. He says, you could choose up time. You decide this is my time for daydreaming, and when that time is done, you no longer daydream. You put in the work. Yo, I thought about how I spend so much time daydreaming while even I'm working on a project. Like my mind, I'm just daydreaming. Where else could I do? Where can I go? Let me look for a bunch of icons. Which icon would fit? And I'm daydreaming. I'm daydreaming. And I think that's also part of the creative process. I don't know, but it's so easy for you to like just to get lost in that process of inspiration, or looking for inspiration, that you just waste time. So recording my screen is like a Pomodoro that forces me, like, I only have 2 hours, so what can I get done in these 2 hours? That's why I said, let me take about 10 minutes and write down what I want to talk about, and then when I finally launch the camera, I can just talk about that. So it's very important for me. As you can see, like in this channel, I've been doing also JavaScript. It has really helped me to concentrate and to get that out. All right. And then I think the final one will be number 10. I have been inspired by streamers, especially, man. Streamers made the world start to feel, to me, like a place where I want to participate in because, well, they just post and go. They don't so much overproduce their content. If they have good audio, that is enough. They keep it going, and I love that a lot. I probably want that for me too, to stream every day. So the last 2 weeks, I've been streaming RWX Rob, and he does Golang streaming every day. So he streams the language Go. It's a programming language. And I also found other streamers who do C++, etc. And I think they grow a lot. And also, it's just started streaming, or rather recording my JavaScript learning videos. And those ones really helped me concentrate. Although I find myself in a space of frustration with it once more, and that's a whole different thing. It shouldn't be this sentence. It doesn't. That's just me being frustrated that I need to go back and learn more. So this is some of my ideas about how playtime with Krox looks like. Now, the next part is how I doing this. So let me take a short bathroom break and I'll be back and continue. Good thing with Camtasia you can just right. So that just took me a moment. I rushed back so fast because I'm really motivated to finish talking about playtime. Um, One of the reasons why I wanna go back and do playtime, like I explained, was the influence that I want to grab my influences and do something with it. Um, I'm trying to open OneNote, and when it opens, I can show you how I'm doing it. Let me go back to Notion and show you what else I'm doing with Notion. Let's go back to this page called Pinterest. This is the first place I would like to start. So on Notion, I have been collecting inspiration, and this is web inspiration, and I'm calling this board Pinterest, and I had wanted to explore everything that, like, my influences, the screen grabs that I get just when I'm randomly scrolling the internet. I want to be very conscious about creating a catalog for it. So how did I come upon this idea? Just while mindlessly scrolling the internet, so I found websites, for example, that offered knowledge products. Okay. I need to. I hope it would work though. I haven't paid for my Office. Who pays for Office? Let's go back to Notion. So I started finding sites that would, for example, break down an image, and it would say something like, okay, fine, here are four things that are in a SaaS type website. For most of the websites here are SaaS types of SaaS, so it's software as a service type industry, I guess. So this is a homepage of the WeChat, ManyChat marketing. I use this for Messenger, Facebook Messenger automations, and this is their homepage. And you could see, so there's the homepage, and you can even see the type of the copy that they use, type of say layout, for example, and they're going to have, so for example, it's this and then a bunch of benefits. They're communicating benefits, and then after benefits they're going to give you testimonials, a bunch of testimonials, and then they're going to make a call for action. So like, and so basically this is how almost every website looks like, right? And I have been creating these influences and collecting them for myself, just like randomly scrolling the internet. I'll be like, collected it, and I had wanted to review this type stuff. So I used to have a Pinterest board, and this morning I was on Pinterest just before I started recording because I thought about these things. As my Pinterest loads, I will go back to my Pinterest page here on Notion. I had wanted to start reviewing these type of things. I saw another creator, um, uh, bro, what is his name on YouTube? Really inspired me, by the way. Let me go to my pins, and then Webflow, Figma, Steel Ideas. What is his name? Yeah, Timothy Riggs. Timothy Riggs. So in this video, Timothy Riggs was like telling people how can you steal ideas from web designs, and he went on Figma and he would grab a bunch of images and colors from, like, this was like um, the Mailchimp website, and then he would now start to remix a lot of this type stuff. It was really cool watching him do it, and at the end, if I can scroll very really quickly, at the end of it, he made something, a very very simple thing, just stolen from like the Mailchimp ideas, and then he switched up the color palette and made it really himself. I thought this was so cool, something that I could do this. I've thought about this, I just never done it. So I thought maybe I could be reviewing a bunch of these things, and I would take them to Figma and try to understand a good what do you call it, a good landing page. Right now I'm learning front end web development. It's something I've always really, really wanted to learn, but I've never had the discipline to follow through and to like really, really, really get good at it. So I've been really trying to get into UX, UI, and also emails, for example. So this is email. Let me show you an email. I also started getting into HTML emails, and this is a way. For example, this is a email inspiration today from Evernote, and this is the Evernote email. I thought it was so sick. It had just like the best type of branding, and I think it would have worked even on a small device. And I thought, how can I start to think about even like HTML emails, and how can I make them come to life by even just looking at other emails? So it's so easy to collect references the way I've collected references for myself. It is so easy to collect references and just let them stay there and do nothing with them. I think when you put yourself in this playtime, you can start to pick apart your references, and you can start to like do things with them. For example, like the way like the Hicks guy, Timothy Hicks, did with this idea. He was just playing. He was just playing. It was so cool to watch him play. He didn't know where he was gonna go, but he kept going, and I thought that was so cool. I remember thinking about this Zendesk website. I thought the colors were so nice, and it was so modern. I felt, wow, I really love like this type of Zendesk branding. How can I bring this a lot into my process? First of all, you realize it's not so difficult, but without playing and without like pattern matching and pattern recognition, it feels so hard, and it feels so genius, and things that you couldn't do. But here they have the home page, the header page, and then they're going to communicate a bunch of benefits, and then they're going to have a bunch of testimonials, and then they're going to have a call to action. Right. Yeah, here, so this is not, so they're not using testimonials here. They're using what do you call this, when they show other products that use them. I forget the name, but it's such like a name that shows you yeah. So they communicate authority using this. It's really the same thing. You could either communicate authority using logos or a bunch of testimonials, and then a call to action. It's so simple. It's almost every single website that I'm seeing is following the same example. I don't think these are obvious things that I could have just unlocked. I had to learn, and I had to see these references. So this is how I'm doing it right now. How I used to do it is using OneNote. Before like OneNote came, Figma, Evernote, and these online tools came into my life, I was choosing OneNote to really like grab inspiration. This is Instagram feed from the creations of LA. And I remember just taking time, literally taking time out of my schedule to save all these references. And it took a lot of time. And for some reason, I even felt like, why am I doing this? This is wasting my time. But now I realize that playing is good. The only way you can grow as a creative is if you take time to play. Because when you take time to play and you come back and you're referencing, it makes sense how this universe that you're trying to build looks like. So this was Creations of LA. He's on Instagram, instagram.com/creations of LA. I remember I wanted to make my Instagram page like him so bad. Ah, like I still stan this dude. He's a legit creative dude. Amazing, from Dubai. A Tau twin. This was the first time ever in 2017 when I started saving up. These are screen grabs from Instagram of these guys who were just taking pictures. This made me start posting on my IG, on my Visuals by Krox Instagram page. That I could probably talk about is a way that I create. This is called process. I don't think there's anything here. So yeah, I had started trying to mess with this idea way back in 2017. So these things are coming back to me like 4 years later, and they're just solidifying. It just took way too long. I should have just followed this rabbit hole when it came, and put a structure in place for me to work. But then I only started recording my screen last year. I didn't even think or know it was possible for me to record my screen and to walk through these things. Because I don't know. I guess I always thought I need to know what I need to say before I come and do this. But also watching streamers and them just not knowing whatever they're doing, give me a lot of you know. Okay, I'm trying to zoom out. What did I just do? So that, oh yeah, this is what I did. So this is a new music that had come out called Solo. I This process of different lyrics, just the evolution of my own critique. Is this the right spelling? No, I haven't paid for it. Critique, critique, oh yeah, I don't have an I. Critique. As I move on, I wanted to just start making a bunch of stuff from people, but I never really came back and followed that idea. So I have Magdiel Lopez, and yeah, Magdiel is a stan. Like I stan. I went to his website, and I grabbed all his images that he had, all his posters. I stan. I follow him everywhere. I follow him on Pinterest. Like back in 2017, 2018, Magdiel entirely influenced the entire like online graphic design industry. You can somehow just see all these influences coming up from his type of work. I thought he's very creative if he can single-handedly influence an entire industry to start making this type of neon type of things. This type, I don't know how you call this, cutting someone's face. Just this type of creative works are becoming like really a thing online. And this is Magdiel, bro. Magdiel Lopez. I also watched him talk through his stories. He came from Cuba. He went to the US as a migrant, and his story is very inspirational. I watched him on Chris Does the Future. Really loved his work. Followed him throughout. Like, but that's the thing. He been creating. I'm just talking about another one, Cinema Lost. Right. So I think in this Cinema Lost, I had started wanting to put together some of the screen grabs that I had in one of my computers. So I've had these screen grabs in different computers. In my old computer, I had the other ones that I posted on my Tumblr. When I got this new computer, these are the ones that I started saving. But I've never posted any of this anywhere. I want you to see how the feeling that is, especially that feeling that I'm wasting time, I should be working on something, was really creeping up on me. But I think solidifying this as a process, that okay, fine, there's a process when you just play, go get things that you like, put them together, look at them, enjoy them. It's like unlocking that part in myself, and I really want to keep doing this. I just want to like for example, I love cinema type stuff. I still do love cinema type stuff, even though like I'm not actively doing that. I really care about cinema type stuff. So it's okay for me if I say today I'm just gonna like take time and scroll cinema type stuff. Lost in Abuja. So Lost in Abuja is a project of mine that that I started playing with on these are Instagram screen grabs. So a lot of my inspiration comes from actually everywhere, but this was Instagram. So I thought, and then I would save it on the save feature on Instagram, right? But I just I started learning that I wanted to have a place where when I'm playing, I have all these influences because these images influence a lot of the type of creative work that you put out later on. So it's always important to find ways to play and to talk through like your motivations. I remember one of the reasons I had wanted to do this is to also start like one of those feature pages, one of those feature pages on IG where you also post the kind of stuff that you like. And I was gonna call that page Los in Abuja. Abuja, I think, is in Nigeria. I don't know if it's a state or I love that name, Abuja. And the goal was to have like like black skin shot against beautiful light. This type of like cinema type lighting, we really influenced by this type of cinema type lighting, but I had also wanted to see black skin on this cinema type lighting. I've seen a lot of cool white people movies, Asian people movies that have been just amazing cinematography. I couldn't help but wonder what how would this look like with black people. And these are people that I follow on Instagram that I think I should have saved their references, but they're on my saved on my other IG. And then this is Instagram story inspiration. As you can see, nothing came in here, but I had wanted to be very conscious in putting together this sketchbook, right? I used to run it on OneNote, and then when I discovered Evernote, I don't want to do it anymore. So another thing that I started saving that I should have started way sooner is this idea of assets. So whenever I'm working or I'm creating or I'm online, I found that I am just getting so many assets from all over. And I told myself one of the things that I can do for myself now moving onwards is to um, um, take these assets and then create a repository of these assets and wherever I got them from. So, for example, this was an Element Summer Fashion Sale IG Story PSD, right? And this is the file. I got this from this link. I bought it from Envato Elements back when I had a subscription. And when was this? This was 2020. And I would find this was Montserrat. It's a Google font. I had it in there. This is Fresh Fork. I think it never actually finally well, it uploaded, but this is an illustration file that I got off freshfork.com. But then a lot of these illustration assets are now in blush.design. I really got influenced a lot when I started doing this. I was like, bruh, all these years I have been a creative. If I did the hard work of organizing my assets, everything that I ever had, I would never like I would have so much of where to start from. And whenever I have, for example, like this humans thing, so I got this humans file, I remember, and I remember this file, me coming to play with it later on, like significant. Let me even show you that video. Do I? Let me show you that video later on significantly, man. So Camtasia screen recordings. I don't mind showing my computer how it looks like. But so what's the humor. Yeah. So this is a video of me. I'm open with VLC just because it would, open it. It will be faster. And I'll show you how playtime. Let me mute. So this is me just taking it and playing it with it on Illustrator, and just having a blast, man, playing with these things on Illustrator and kind of thinking, where can I use it? So, and I might have come back and use it later on in a presentation project, but I thought this process was very important too. It's raining. I thought this process. Oh, all right. Let me close it. Let me go back to assets. I thought this process was very important for me to like really see what I have in this asset file. I wondered how often I have a bunch of assets, free assets, bought assets that I haven't even cracked and used to their potential. So I want to have this playtime to come in and just like use these things. I just got this the other day um, from FreePick, and what I'm doing right now is I'm creating a link. So this link is like a string of wherever I get everything from, and I want to also get really good at even creating creators for the work that they do. This is an Illustrator file, and this is a typeface that I just got yesterday actually. But I never actually just played with it. I got it, and then I was trying to play with it on Figma. It never loaded. I went online. I was trying to figure out how to load things on Figma, and that's that. So that was the first type of thing I just showed you that I do. Or let me finally show you. Oh no, I can't. It stay like this. Let me finally go show you my Pinterest board, and this is something that I've built. I used to build way back, and it stopped making sense to me. But just like right now, during this like playtime process, it just started making a lot of sense to me. But at the same time, I don't want to just collect random inspiration. Remember, the playtime is collecting inspiration and then doing something with it. So I use pinning. I was pinning a lot, and I have a bunch of private pins, and I also have a bunch of like really public pins. And so, for example, like this Pinterest board is called. Let's open it and see. It's called Product Presentation Ideas, and I remember just being really influenced by it's so like design. So there's design. So there's the process of designing. There's the thing that you go through when you getting your design out there, and then there's design presentation. And I just started seeing this, and it really blew my mind. And what I would really like for me now is, so for example, if I did put together this presentation board, that's not enough. I need to challenge myself to during my playtime to make something like this, maybe with on Photoshop, or I could actually do it in real life. So it's not just things that I know about, but it's how I bring it into life. And since I looked at this such a long time ago, I even forgot that I knew this type of things, right? Look at this process where this lady is creating this amazing product presentation. And I can always come back and look at it. Let me look at something else I really used to enjoy um, was layout. And I had a bunch of cool layouts. I mean, these are like really, really cool layouts that got me on like newspaper design, got me like look at all these cool layouts. It's so easy. So this is why I'm saying it's so easy to be over inspired. You understand now? Like man, I know so much about layouts. I know so much inspiration about layouts, but what am I actually doing about it? I think playtime. I wanna always try during playtime to pick something and to try and like reverse engineer it the way Timothy Rex was doing. You have to finish. I have to finish my process by reverse engineering something. So yeah, man, this is that's what I'm trying to do. Um, right now, that's what I'm really trying to do. Let me see. How can I go back to where I was? Because it's wherever I was, it's just so far away. Okay, so it was Pinterest, but I want to go back to. The reason I just don't want to search it is because it's this playtime with Krox is inside another board, which is inside another database. And Notion is such a powerful tool to help you do this type of thing. So, uh, with maybe OneNote, uh, Pinterest, and Notion. So this is how I wanna, and of course, design tools. And this is what I wanna like do every time I come to play. Cool. So yeah, man, that was me talking about playtime, and bruh, and how I'm seeing this playtime start to come to life for me, and how I'm seeing this thing start to make sense for me. And so one of the things is I hope I'm gonna be doing this every day. Now, man, I was just thinking one of the things that is so easy for me that I can do for hours is just scrolling the interwebs for creative work. I think I'm so good at this. I think I'm actually really good at finding creative things. I just keep pushing, keep pulling this string, and I want that, man. I want that. I want that for me and for this process. So that was it. That's introduction to playtime with Krox, and I hope to maybe come back later on and just play, do whatever, and that would be it. So see you when I see you, man. Been excited. That was an amazing time. See you when I see you.